Hi, welcome to this knowledge clip on focus group discussions. Maybe you're new to doing focus groups, or you would just like to refresh your mind on on some essentials of designing effective and creative sessions. Then you came to the right place. My name is Durgan Lynch, and I'm a researcher at the Athena Institute of the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Both my research and my teaching incorporates focus group discussions. In this video, I will elaborate a bit more on designing effective and creative focus group discussions. First, I will talk about effective questioning strategies. What type of questions are there and how can you sequence these to get the most out of your focus groups? Then I hope to inspire you with some creative ideas to implement in your own sessions. This is part two of the focus group discussion knowledge clip I made. In part one, I discussed the essentials of focus group discussions. I there spoke about the characteristics of focus groups, the role of the moderator, and some general strengths and limitations. Feel free to watch the part one first if you haven't done so yet. So yeah, the questioning strategy. Um, Let me start by saying that there are two questioning strategies that I would like to highlight in this video. One is the topic guide, and the other one is a more extensive questioning route. For example, if you were to conduct a focus group discussion on the topic of customer service, the topic guide would simply state on a piece of paper impressions of customer service, while the questioning route has for every exercise, every question, every part of the focus group, it elaborates in a lengthier, more complete manner how the question should be posed to the participant. If you look at both the topic guide and the questioning route, they both have, of course, pros and cons. Here you can see the main limitations and strengths of choosing one over the other. The topic guide is more quick. It's quicker to develop, um, and it allows for a more conversational focus group discussion because it's very natural. The facilitator or the moderator just has to formulate in a conversational manner a nice question to the participants based on what is written, based on the topic. It's more spontaneous. However, it becomes more difficult to analyze because there might be inconsistency between certain moderators in how they phrase questions, but also the same moderator can have that. And you have limited feedback when pilot testing it. On the other hand, the questioning route is more slow to develop. It can be a bit more awkward to always have the same pronunciation and the same phrasing for each question. But it does increase the sponsor's confidence. The funder of your research, who maybe gets to see before the pilot testing how you can easily be transparent in how your research activities contribute to data that addresses the main objective of the research. So the quality also to analyze, and because of the consistency that is enhanced between the moderators, this questioning route strategy is more rigorous. So if I can suggest the questioning route, yeah, I would definitely suggest you to do. But if, of course, if you're a experienced facilitator and you run into some resources constraints, the topic guide might be a quick way to help you out in that case. Now, I want to highlight some aspects about the types of questions that you have in the focus group discussion. First of all, remember the focus group discussion session, the questions are very closely related to your own study questions, your research questions, because we're dealing with producing data here. Okay, so in general, there are 5 types of questions that I would like to touch upon in a focus group discussion. First, you have opening questions. For these questions, the idea is that you want participants to get acquainted and feel connected with the topic. So you want quick answers based on facts to make people feel comfortable or people to just get to talk with each other. Typically, these questions are not analyzed. Uh, And one example is stated here. Tell us who you are, where you live, and your favorite memory of last summer. Then you have introductory questions. These begin to talk more about the discussion topic. So they introduce the general topic and they establish a connection with the topic. As you can see here, when you hear the word childhood obesity, what comes to mind? After a transition question, you might have, or you have the key questions. Sorry, after the introductory questions, you have transition questions. Sorry. These transition questions move a little bit more slowly, but seamlessly into the key questions. So they're more conversation, they're more of a conversation towards key questions, and they help the participants to envision the topic in a broader, broader scope. They become aware of each other's views as well. It's more in depth. For example, what are the causes of childhood obesity? Then we come to the key questions, and these are 3 or 4 main questions, and these are the ones you really would like to focus on. Um, so these are the areas of your central concern. They drive the study and also require the greatest analysis. So you need more time for these questions. Be aware of that. And these are the questions as well where the moderator would probe and pause and probe and clarify more in depth. For example, what strategies might be successful in addressing childhood obesity among ethnic minorities in Amsterdam? There might be 2 or 3 exercises related to this question only. And then you have ending questions. The ending questions help to determine where the place of emphasis should be put, or to and to bring closure to the discussion and yeah, taking everything into account. So considering all things, considering the entire focus group, summarizing. You can, for example, pose as a question, suppose you had 1 minute to talk to the Minister of Health on the topic of childhood obesity, what would you say? So these help to actually close the focus group discussion. Then I would like to highlight a bit more uh, the importance of paying attention to how you phrase your questions. So if you've also watched the knowledge clip on interviews, it's quite similar. Yes, these are important aspects to take into account when you are doing this type of research, qualitative research. So the first one is use open-ended questions. These questions reveal what is on the participant's mind. It is possible to have closed questions. Yes, it is. But know that closed questions have, they provide less, in-depth exploration. So maybe at the end you have a few closed questions, but try to focus on open questions. The second thing is you can ask participants to think back. Participants always, or you want them to reflect on their personal experience. If you have a question with think back, it helps to establish certain context, and it avoids certain common beliefs or values to be the first things that participants talk about. So socially desirable answers. Um, and this increases the reliability of your responses. So if you can tap into that personal experience of the participants, that would be great. Avoid asking why questions. This is a bit difficult for me personally, but some authors state about it. Avoid, because why questions imply that a certain rational, intellectualized answer is necessary. And try to avoid asking why questions, but instead what caused you or how come you went, what elements contributed to blah, blah, blah. So yeah, less of an intellectualized expected answer then. Keep your questions simple, of course. Try not to have too complex questions or ambiguous questions that address multiple things in once. And be very cautious about giving examples, because this may sometimes limit the thinking of participants, although they might ask you quite sometimes for questions. Some other general things, ask your questions in a conversational manner, so that requires some practice. Try to have your wordings quite direct, comfortable, and clear. Make sure that you don't use jargon. Make sure that your questions are short. Those are important things to take into account when you're phrasing. And you're pilot testing it, to see how it comes across to your research team, but also to maybe your housemates. It's also important to think about how you sequence the questions. The first one that I would like to highlight is sometimes you are providing background information to the participants. That can be via PowerPoint presentation, or you explain, for example, a new technology or a solution. Um, Make sure that whatever information you are providing, that it is uniform how you provide it in each focus group. So ensure consistency between how information is provided, background information is provided to the participants. In general, you start with general questions and then you transition more to specific questions. So some of a funnel analogy technique, as the picture might indicate. And I would also recommend to ask positive questions before negative questions. Uh, that is, yeah, try to have a balance of both, because they both can inspire others and influence the atmosphere. This is what we would call at the Athena Institute a creative diamond. And it basically showcases the structure of your entire focus group in a different way, stating actually that you are diverging with opening up to different idea generations, then you are clustering, sorting, then you converge, you select and you prioritize certain things that are considered more important. So to indicate diverging and converging exercises in the creative diamond. This is what you want to achieve with your entire focus group, not every exercise within one focus group. So also in focus groups, you as a facilitator or a moderator have the opportunity to probe. Probing questions, they're spontaneous. They can be just out of curiosity to clarify certain things a bit more. And this is necessary. Sometimes the certain meanings or certain explanations are vague, and they might be clear to you as a facilitator, but they might not be so clear for the other participants. So that is sometimes necessary. Do check, keep your time into consideration when you, sometimes there is no time left for probing. Follow-up questions. These are part of the script. Sometimes one part, something is discussed in the beginning of the focus group, and then you would like to build on that. So you have follow-up questions in the script that make use of certain answers from another exercise to further run the focus group in a different direction. You also have unplanned questions that might be additional questions that suddenly seem relevant to the study, but be aware that these can also hamper the comparability between the different focus group discussions. This is an example of a focus group script, and I highlighted with a blue smiley face what I actually like about this script. This was done by one of a group of students a few years ago. So they state the objectives of the focus group and how they contribute to the bigger research objectives um, in the script. And that is, yeah, that is good for the research team to have that clear. It's linked to the study questions, and it gives information on the setting, the participants, but also the necessities, all the necessities needed for running, conducting the focus groups in an effective way. This is further part of the script. Here you can see that they have per exercise the objective stated continuously in the script, so they know what they are contributing towards with already, kind of like the analysis steps on hand during conducting of the focus group. They also have the time specified both in time frame and how many minutes in total. And they have scripted the important information that they definitely, background information that they definitely want to have in a consistent way to all focus group sessions. And what I have here as well is that they even have certain probing or follow-up questions already incorporated in the focus group script. Um, Make sure that you, once you have your script, to allow some sufficient time to to pilot test your focus group, so that you can make adjustments on time before running the actual focus groups that you're going to analyze. And ultimately, what works. Each focus group is unique, and what works. That's the one you have to roll with. That's how it goes. All right, now I have a few slides on designing creative sessions, because I think a focus group should not be boring. So I hope that the next slide or simple exercises that I introduce hope to inspire you to make creative focus group sessions once you're doing it yourself. You might recall this general structure, which was introduced in part one of this knowledge clip. The focus groups start with the articulation of personalized, contextualized stories linked to the intuitions. You want people to articulate why they state certain stuff, so make explicit. Then there is a phase where you're systematizing, categorizing, making connections, and from there you prioritize, you converge, and you focus. So this general structure, I will use a variety of different exercises, creative exercises that you can implement for your own focus group. The first one is to help construct that safe and trustworthy environment. Um, Allow some time to get the participants acquainted with each other via a name game or a get to know exercise. Have stickers with their name or pieces of paper on the table, so that participants can actually address each other by name. You can have an icebreaker that can be before the focus group starts, if it's a transition from another activity, or during the break. It can be something completely different, but it can also be linked to the topic that you're going to discuss. So people might, for example, select two pictures that they connect connect with to it or to their own life, and that's how they, to break the ice and to get creative. So that one is helping already to linking with the contextual stories. Then an example of an associations exercise. So this was a study on the bio-based economy, and we were wondering what was the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word bioplastic. So participants then they wrote down their first intuitive thought association on a post-it, and this is a digitalized version of it. And what we here see is that there are positive, negative, and also questions that come that people associate immediately when hearing the word bioplastic. So these share, it's collecting and sharing intuitions and articulating, in some cases, some contextual stories. Then you have exercises that can help to diverge. You have mind maps or spider diagrams. These exercises, they're actually a tool to make certain relations between either concepts, objects, groups, organizations, peoples, elements of a program, connecting and linking, so making things explicit. So drawing concepts and the relations between concepts. I let the participants do it themselves. So here you see the use of flip overs. If you're doing a focus group with children, for example, visualizations might help to yeah, to make explicit what the participant might mean with certain things. They can help to visualize opportunities and barriers. And remember, it's really not about the picture, but the story behind it. So allow then room to have the participants explain their drawings, their visualizations. They even might help you discover parts of the research that you haven't conceived yourself. You also have timeline learning histories. These give insights and factual activities over a particular timeline. You can involve multiple stakeholders in making a timeline within an organization from different levels of management, for example. And they provide quite some room for reflection as well. So quite some learning and capacity building empowerment can take place during a timeline learning history. It's making things explicit, but also categorize challenges and insightful moments, achievements, for example. As you can see, clustering exercises, it's really nice to have people move around, use post-its, as you can see, because those can easily be systemized, categorized, and connections can be made. And it's nice to have these post-its and also the flip overs on the wall during the entire session, so participants can see their contribution, and it allows them as well to learn from those things and build on their own answers for following exercises. This is an example of a problem tree. A tree is universally recognized as a symbol and has a clear metaphorical meaning. So stakeholders become aware of certain things, the roots. This is a research on disability inclusion, the roots to inclusion, what is the current situation, and the results, the fruits of inclusion, but what might also be the challenges. So it's one way of clustering, systematize, and categorize the input, the data. Then finally, I have one that enhances creativity when thinking of solutions, priorities. This is the superhero exercise. For example, at the end of discussing all the different solutions and problems, you ask them, think of your favorite superhero. How would he or she solve the problem? Or you can ask them, if you were the prime minister, or if you had $1 million, what would you do? That's one creative way of doing it, but you can also make use of dot voting. So having participants put a priority sticker on all the different categories. All right, this is the end. I hope that I've inspired you a bit more with these two knowledge clips on focus group discussions. Thank you for watching, and if you're going to conduct any focus groups soon, good luck with that. Goodbye.